I'd like to take us into a moment of meditation. And I'm pulling from the Mornings with Myrtle booklet. I encourage you all to get your copy. It's a beautiful way to focus on the principles and on a daily basis. So this today I pulled from the prayer of oneness. So I'd like and invite you to take some deep breaths, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, to settle in your body. And in the breath, we recognize and attune to our shared humanity in this experience that we have. The prayer of oneness, I am grateful for the innate wisdom that guides my every step. When I find myself distressed by the actions of others that I find perplexing or even reprehensible, I turn within before forming a response. Inner wisdom reminds me that I see the best in others to the degree I call it forth in myself. In that moment, I choose to see or seek the presence of Christ within myself and all humanity. Aligning with Source, I affirm the oneness of all creation as often as necessary. In doing so, I radiate love, peace, and harmony into the world around me. So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. From Genesis 1:27. So this prayer for oneness is kind of brought me to be thinking about, well, what is it that keeps us from that oneness? You know, if that's the truth of who we are, then why are we not experiencing that in the world or in our lives? And so I remembered something that I had read in the past, and it was a book entitled Five Attachments. And it's part of the lineage of Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., The Five Levels of Attachment is the book. And so I thought I would pull from that because I think it really helped me a lot, and I hope it'll help you understand what happens and how we begin to develop our attachments that result in the sense that we have of separation from the one true source. Now, these are attachments that we hold, and they're attachments that we're seeing others hold in the world as well. So I'm going to share with you these five attachments. I'm going to give you some definitions. I'm going to give you some examples. So maybe you can relate to them in your life, kind of see where you are. And I want to invite you not to automatically attach to where you are and to let it kind of just let it be revealed to you as you maybe spend a little more time on this, or go back and look at some of this and try to identify where you are holding these attachments versus just where you see other people holding those attachments, which is a lot easier, by the way. So, what do we need to release to keep us from experiencing that oneness? And how attached are we to these forms that kind of become like our identity? So, in the teachings of Don Miguel Ruiz and the Mayan traditions, they say that we come into this world as our authentic self, this pure being of light, ready to take on this experience that is the world. And then slowly we become domesticated, is what they say. Basically, wherever we land, we could have landed on another continent. We landed here, wherever we landed to have this life experience. Then things start to be we start to attach to this environment, this that we've already created. What was created in the past is passed down to us, and you all know that as soon as a baby's born, the first thing you want to do is teach them how to name everything, how to point to this and what this is and what that is. And we begin to domesticate our children, and we too are domesticated to belief systems and and identities. So now these are all just personality preferences. They're not our true selves, which of course is our authentic or higher self, that pure essence of who we are and who we came here to express. And then everything else kind of gets globbed on. So we kind of think about it, what are we attached to? And it's really everything. We're attached to our identification. We get attached to our beliefs. We get very attached to our opinions. And we get attached to the masks that people wear. You know, this one looks like that, so they must be this. We get very attached to being right, which in the Bible is called righteousness. Know what they say about righteousness. But we're so attached to being right, we get attached to our concept of what other is. This is me, and that's the other. So we get attached to that identification around separation. We get attached to the concepts of justice. What is justice? Based on who? Whose justice? We get attached through limited experiences. If we've only had certain experiences, we're attached to those and we're not aware of anything else. Very limited or lived experiences. This is what I experienced, so this is how it is. We get attached to, gender, nationality, religion, political parties, policies, even our idea of what safety is. So we get attached to many, many things. And that is kind of what is the creation out there that we talked about a little bit in the prayer. And that is that this is what creates this experience that we have. So we need to kind of start to look at it with a little more detached so that we can see it. But first we need to understand, okay, how does this happen? And according to Don Miguel Ruiz, there's 5 levels. In other words, we start somewhere and then we progressively get more and more and more attached. So I'm going to share those 5 levels with you and give you some examples around them, around the kinds of things that we just to kind of give you a way to identify them. So there's going to be examples, for instance, around topics like sports. How we get attached to sports, politics, and even religion. And the purpose of these examples is just to help you understand these levels of attachments. You might identify some things about yourself. You definitely are going to see others. And so of course, it's a lot easier to see others, see these attachments in the other guy. But I'm going to encourage us to use this information, this knowledge that's being shared here, to reflect on the creator of your life experience, which is you. You are creating your life experience, and your attachment, your levels of attachments to anything and everything is impacting that experience. So we begin with the first level, and that is really how we come into the world, into our experience as the authentic self. So level 1 is the authentic self. And in the authentic self level of attachment, we're not attached to a whole lot. We have no real attachments to beliefs, and we live freely as our true selves. For example, if we're going to use an example such as sports, we simply enjoy a sport. We enjoy it without caring who wins, right? In politics, we can watch, political debates with curiosity. That's interesting. What's going on when we're not attached? We don't have a bias around things already, or we are appreciating all aspects or all types of spiritual traditions without identifying ourselves with anyone. So, I mean, that's kind of a pretty detached level, right? Where you can kind of let everyone be where they are, think what they think, believe what they believe, live their life how they want to live their life. And I'm talking about truly feeling that, not saying, well, live and let live, kind of in an off way. But it's that sense of being truly grounded in our authentic self, and that is level 1. Okay, that's, I'm going to say, is the goal. Level 1 is the goal. So they really kind of go from 5 up to level 1, but we're going to kind of show how we kind of fall in to these levels. You can kind of see how we have, in a way, descended deeper and deeper into what Ruiz calls the dream. And so the first one, like I said, is authentic self. So then at level two, okay, we're hanging around here. After a while, we've been, starting to receive our domestication, and we begin to become more attached at the level two, which is the level of preference. Okay, the level of preference. You have likes or values, but you can easily let them go when they no longer serve you. You have preferences, yeah. If they ask you, you want this, you want that, you have a preference. But if they say, "Well, I'm sorry, we don't have that. How about this?" You go, "Okay, it's not, the end of the world for you." So at level two preference, we develop these likes and these values. And again, we can pretty easily, let them go, such as a team, maybe we're like a team, but, we're not upset if it loses the game. We're okay, that was our team. We kind of liked it. And, oh, I liked it. But for whatever reasons, I liked it. I watched the game. I can still enjoy the game and not be too attached if they lose. And you might be leaning in politics, for instance, you might lean more towards a certain political party, a certain agenda of policies or whatever, and you lean toward maybe a party, but you still remain pretty open to others, uh, and you're open to learning more. Um, but you can say, sometimes, like I remember telling this one person, I said, eventually I have to walk into that voting booth and I have to make a choice. So, but I'm, relatively not attached as a party, let's say, into my identity. Um, and then in the religious or spiritual circles, this level of attachment is you enjoy one particular church. There's one place, it's your preference, Unity Church of Brownsville. Here's where you like to come, here's where you tune in. But you're feeling comfortable visiting others. You're okay when someone comes in, for instance, the Unity Church of Brownsville and speaks on a topic that's different from what you've seen before. You have a preference. This is still the kind of message you like to hear, but you're open, so you just have preferences. So see, that's an attachment, but it's a light, you're holding it lightly. So then eventually we kind of move in a little deeper into our attachments, or we maybe notice this about ourselves for certain subjects, or definitely we begin to notice others. And that would be level three, which is identity. So we've had authenticity, the authentic self, right? The personality has preferences, and then identity. So our beliefs become part of who we are. We identify with them. We call ourselves a fan. Now we're a fan. We've decided which team is our team. And we wear we like to buy the hat and wear the shirt and, wear the little flag. We kind of identify with the team, we're with them. So that's identity. And in politics, for instance, you might see identify with a member of a particular political party. I've always been this. This is what my family was. This is what I am. And you say that, you say it as I am. We start to identify. We start to make that our I am in identity. And the same thing goes with maybe a particular faith, tradition, or religion. We identify as a particular religious belief. I am Catholic. We'll say these words, and we identify with them. So that's level three. So you can see where these kind of fall, right? And then we get a little deeper into this attachment. And level four attachment now is we begin to internalize. We begin to internalize our beliefs. And these internalized beliefs strongly shape our behavior and how we feel compelled to defend them. So we begin to really internalize, and it becomes not only who we are, but any challenge to it becomes a problem for us. And so we have this sense that we need to defend against anyone who's going to try to shift or change that. So that's the internalization level four. So, for instance, in sports, you might decide, okay, I'm not doing anything. It's game night. It's game day. You decide that you're going to cancel all the other plans because you're going to watch every game and you're going to argue with rival fans. I mean, you're like, no, we're the best. I don't know about you. We're the best. And you're really into it. You see this. People get really riled up and they internalize themselves and identity around sports. You see them painting their faces. I mean, they're in it. They're in it all complete and totally in it. And uh, the other thing in politics, we might become more involved. We're actively campaigning for our party or a particular aspect of political life. We will debate others, right? We're fierce in our debates. I mean, we want to change other people's thoughts and beliefs because we've internalized this in it, and we're really invested in internalizing this level of attachment to our beliefs around politics. We see that a lot around now. Uh, we've always seen it, but it's part of this process. Uh, in maybe spiritual or religious circles, we might begin to just really rejecting the practices from other faiths because they don't fit our beliefs, and so there's a lot of judgment here, where we really upped the ante around judging other and putting our identifying here, and then that other is something against, and so we have a lot of energy, a lot of invested in that attachment that we're holding in these areas. So I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit with you because I think hopefully there's some things coming up for you. Like I said, it's easier to see it out there, and it's another level to begin to recognize that within ourselves. And that's what I'm inviting you to do with this. And we'll talk a little bit about what happens when we start to see these attachments within ourselves. So, and then finally, level 5, thank God there's only 5 according to the race. But level 5 is fanaticism. Fanaticism. And here we're completely fused with our beliefs and may sacrifice relationships to protect these beliefs, such as, cutting off from friends who support rival teams. Like, oh, you're one of them. Okay, well, we're not, we really make them, very other. And we have separated ourselves completely. And it can be, you see this happening sometimes, not on the soccer field, on television. And the fanaticism is, out of control, how much they're willing to fight for that position and that belief and that attachment. And the same thing goes, for instance, in we want to disown, and let's say in the politics, we get to the point where we start to demonize and disown people from opposite parties or from other parties. So, now it's not just, you have, you do you, it's now, so it's a lot more than that. Now, everything's at stake. Everything's at stake. And we put so much emphasis on it. And we realize that, we're demonizing people. We're calling people evil. We're disowning people who hold, whatever level they're holding the belief, because they could be holding it at a little more detached level of belief than you. But if you're in this state of fanaticism, there's no medium ground at this point. And the same thing in religious circles around, the topic of religion, let's say, or spirituality, that's when the practice of shunning happens. Anyone outside the religion, uh, or anything that could question my beliefs, I have to shun it completely, separate myself from them, not open to anything at that level of belief, which is fanaticism, number 5. So I'm sure you can recognize how this, it gets more and more serious because it becomes more and more clouded and more separated from the truth of who we are, which is that authentic self, level 1, where how we came, pure uh, uh, identity with the Christ mind and the truth of who we are, and not only who we are, but who everyone is. So we start to, glob on all of this identity and we begin to attach to all of these beliefs, and they actually create more and more separation from the truth of who we are. Now, in chapter 4 of the Four Agreements, it goes a little deeper and it says, well, we first have to identify where we are. Like, where in the map are we? And I gave you 3 examples, where you are in sports. Like, I'm totally like I could care less about sports. I have like no attachment. And every once in a while, just to enjoy the game, I might go into a little preference. Okay, I want the Cowboys to win or whatever. But I'm not attached. So you kind of see where you are in each of these things. Same thing with maybe politics, maybe where you are around religion, and there's more than that. It's that I just use those as examples because I think we can identify not only ourselves but what we're seeing in the world. So it says first we have to know kind of where we are, and so here's the thing that's really important to understand, and that is the authentic self is always present. And it is only our attachments that keep us from remembering who we really are. And it can be our attachments that keep us from remembering who others are or whomever we've made other. So, we use the word neighbor a lot. And, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor, love thy neighbor. Yeah, but not that guy. So we're confused. We get very confused around our attachments. So this is a really good place to do our spiritual work. So it says, do not rely on your own understanding. This is from Charles Fillmore. The truth will be revealed to you and it will challenge what you have held as true. And remember, whatever you have held as true is an attachment. And so when you are open to what I call revelation, which is the truth revealed to you through your personal connection to the truth of who you are, your authentic self, you'll be challenged and you'll be given opportunity to reflect and begin to release these attachments. So a way we experience that sometimes, we've heard the word paradigm shift. Paradigm is like a worldview. This is how I see my world. You see different people see their world different ways. We're seeing a variety of worldviews coming into awareness for us to look at and decide and choose. And so it's a change from one way of thinking to another. So it's a pattern. A paradigm is like a pattern. And again, this is a pattern that we were taught. We developed over time. We chose in our process. And now this is our worldview. And then we kind of get shaken up a little bit. And we have to kind of, okay, we got to let go of some of these worldviews in order to come back to a more authentic truth of who and what we are. So when you are ready to let go of an attachment, let's say that something is revealed to you, and usually it's revealed to you through a process that feels like, okay, here's a thought I never thought of before. It's a new thought, and it's coming into my consciousness, and it does something. It disturbs me. There's a disturbance. And in Unity, we call that chemicalization. Y'all remember hearing that word before? Chemicalization is like a spiritual shakeup. Well, you're holding on to this belief, you had identified with it, maybe you were even fanatical about it, and now you're receiving a new thought about it, which is what happens to a lot of people who are starting to open up and awaken, and all these words that we use to describe the transformative spiritual process. So we begin to have a new understandings of things, and it shakes us up. We have a chemicalization, and that is because this new thought disturbs the old thought belief that we were attached to, and in the process of releasing it, so that the new thought will be our new way of thinking and being, that we've accepted, that we've chosen, that this is how I want, how this is a revelation. The other one has to move away, and it's disturbing. So a lot of what we're experiencing individually and collectively is this chemicalization, this disturbance, this shifting of paradigm of what we've held, and on whatever, however we've done it, wherever you feel you land. Righteousness is a great one. We think we've got it right. Everyone else has it wrong, whatever that is. It's going to shake us up a little bit. And so, from Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady, which of course is a Unity classic, um, she says individualization is the God expressed in, as, and through the personality. Now, personality is kind of where we start having our preferences. That's kind of our level two hanging out. Okay. We hang out in level two is our personality expressing, but it's open. I think I've used the word neutral with you all in my talks to remain that kind of loose about it. Yeah, okay, I have a preference, but I'm not gonna, I'm not at fanaticism, I'm not dying on that rock. I'm open and receiving some new understanding. And when that new understanding comes and it shakes up something else, then we may be experiencing something. And that something can feel, you know, I mean, you can feel physically sick in chemicalization when new ideas are taking the place of old ideas. This is, I mean, if we're really doing our work in new thought, we're going to have a lot of those experiences. If we're not having any of them, then we're really not digging very deeply into letting go of things. So this is something to kind of watch. So with this awareness of how attached we are to a particular belief or idea, we regain something very important: our ability to make a choice, to say yes or no over again. So we're choosing. The true freedom we have as individuals is to be able to choose with full awareness of what we want and don't want, instead of allowing our knowledge to dictate what we are supposed to be or what we're supposed to choose. And that's really free will. So our freedom is to choose, it's true freedom. It is our free will. And we like to say we have free will, but when we are really deep into these levels of attachment, we're no longer in our free will, in our sovereignty, in our true, pure place of choice. We're just reacting and responding and continuing to perpetuate this uh, view of the world, or as Ruiz calls it, this dream. We're caught up in other people's dreams and we're caught up in our dreams. So being able to release these attachments is what's important. And how do we release them really has to do with first just having the intention to release it. So when you're ready to let go of an attachment, Ruiz writes, all that is required to begin is a willingness to say, yes, I want to let go. So you choose that. You can ask for help. Help me see this differently. You can align to the truth of who you are. And you can pray from that place to be able to see with the eyes of the Christ where you are attached and at what level you're attached, so that we can begin to release. Um, so think about that. We start from the top and we start with fanaticism. You can ask yourself, what are some of the things that you're holding at the level of fanaticism that you're willing to fight for, I mean, really hurt others uh, around this. And then, or what, how do you move from there to the next? Well, it's through our practices of prayer and meditation, where we first have to ask that we want to see it in a new way. We're not seeing it that way right now, and we admit that. We can see that within ourselves. We can recognize our attachment, and then we can, and how, because we know how we feel, you know We've got a lot of feels around these attachments. So that's a signal. And we take that into prayer and meditation in order for us to begin to release our attachments, because until we can release our attachments and move more towards that unification, that idea of union, that oneness, that we think it's going to happen somewhere else in some other way, but it's not. It's our path to oneness, and it's individual and it's collective. So there's a lot to be done, and what's ours to do? Well, we have to first begin to release these attachments, start looking at this. And like I said, there's lots of books. I pulled from Emily Cady's book. I've pulled from Five Levels of Attachments. I've pulled from the Book of Truth by Paul Selig. I pulled from uh, The Untethered Soul. That's a beautiful book too. Again, untethered, unattached, back to more to that authentic place of where we are, because we want to create from there. We want to pray from there. We want to envision the new from there, new possibility, not through all the layers of domestication or identity and attachments that we've, you know, allowed, accepted, in some ways. And so, what we want to do is we really want to begin that process. So, in closing, what I'd like to do is just give you a couple of little quotes. So, one is a beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and all of you have heard this quote. And in reference to what I shared here today, it says, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. And when we see others so attached, they're lost and we're lost. When we're attached, we've lost our connection. They're lost, they're losing their connection. They're identifying very strongly in a certain place. And so we want to be that change, to bless from that place and be the change that we want to see in the world. And then the second quote is from Albert Einstein, and that is, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. When new information comes, we have to release what no longer serves and take this new information and utilize its knowledge, new knowing, gnosis that comes to us, and we put that into practice. So releasing our attachments is our spiritual work to do. Thank you.